Hi. Hi, Ravi.
Hi,
Welcome to the show.
thank you, Santosh, for having me on this.
Oh,
Really
yeah.
honored. So, so it was like a surprise for me to go ahead and receive that email from you, and I felt very honored. I mean, like I told you the other day, I really admire you for what you're doing for the community, and I really appreciate that. It's great.
Thanks a lot. No, I appreciate that. First time when I thought of having this conversation with you, I thought, oh, let me talk to him. He's done this fascinating hike to Kilimanjaro. And then you tell me that Kilimanjaro is just one of them you did. You've done a whole bunch of fascinating hikes. So it's like a bonus.
Yeah, I mean, hiking is like one of the passions that I had. And I mean, hiking exactly was driven by my love towards nature. I mean, to be precise, I really like to be in the mountains, and send me there, I can stay there for years and years. So that's, if given a chance, somebody asked me to go stay in mountains, that's it. I'm up there, baby. So that's exactly how I look at it. It's very.
Awesome. We should talk about that. So before we jump in, why don't you just kind of quickly introduce yourself, your background, what you do, then we'll jump in.
Sure. My name is Ravi Joshi, and I mean, professionally for work, I got through my engineering. Went to a lot of school in my life, so people call me perennial student. I just like to keep on going back to school kind of stuff. So, and I worked in the industry for some time, and went back into consulting business many years ago, and consulting business was the one that took me to travel to different places for work. So whenever I go out, and if there was a chance for me to stay outside for the weekend, then I always explored that country, going to the mountains again. So that's what I do. And then in terms of hobby, on a personal note, also, I mean, travel not just for work, but with my family. So my wife is my best partner. I
Mhm.
take her all my hikes. And then after one hike, I promised her, which I'm going to talk about it later. But yeah, so she has been my companion for all the hikes. Love going on hikes with her. So
Awesome.
it's a
That's terrific. And what is most fascinating is that you have hiked in all the seven continents.
Yep, I was lucky enough to go ahead and do that, and it's really a blessing. If I look back now, I mean, you really feel blessed to get that opportunity to go on all the continents and do those hikes. So it was really a blessing for us.
Yeah. Either you got blessed or you made it happen.
But I mean, sometimes you know what? It's both ways. You even though you plan, uh,
Mhm.
things don't happen. Sometimes things don't happen. That's where you go to the count of blessings. And there are a lot of people who planned it but were not able to go make it. So it's like, yeah, it's both ways. Nature has to help us clear the path, keep the weather nice, and
Yeah.
all that good stuff to happen. So.
I think that's one thing that something like hiking in the wilderness teaches you, that it you become humble like you.
Believe me. So one, I mean, we all know that people who hike the mountains will say, and there is an author who mentions this: stand in front of a mountain. If you are feeling your ego is very high, you will be humbled in nanoseconds.
Yeah.
So mountains teach you that the majesticity of those mountains. I mean, the moment you stand in front of that and look on the top, you really feel really humbled by the size of that mountain. So,
Yeah. No, that is so profound. And so you hiked in some very fascinating places. You hiked in Asia, in Manasa Sarovar, and I'm going to not give away all the names, but you hiked in Peru, Salcantay. I believe that was like some 19,000 feet hike. So a lot of endurance hike, and there's a lot of fitness involved here. It's not just going out and going for a walk outside your door. So
yeah.
first off, what prompted you to take on endurance hiking? I mean, what was the trigger? You could have just walked for 5 miles outside and been happy.
That's a good question, right? I mean, so for me, it has always been mountains. I like told you, like like to be in the mountains. And the moment you get into the mountains and all of these trails, they become like the altitude makes it more endurance based hiking. So altitude is one of the key elements. And as you go further, you really know that, hey, I need to be fit. It's not easy that you can tomorrow you can decide, you know what, I'm gonna go Kilimanjaro hike. I can't do that. You got to have that preparation. You got to have that level of fitness. You got to have that commitment to make it to the top. I mean, it really requires a lot of preparation. Yeah, some people are really like very fit and they can go on some of those hikes. But what I've seen is you do require preparation, and you feel challenged also. And one of the things that I always like to go back and look at it is take up the challenges. And at the end of the day, when you accomplish that goal, you feel that elation in your heart. You feel that happiness, all of that stuff that goes. And that's one of the memories that will stay with you for the rest of your life. That's what I believe.
So talk to us about how long. So let's say, so which was your first big hike?
The Mansarovar Tibet one was the big hike.
Okay, so how long? Talk to us about how you prepared for it. How long did you train? What all did you do to prepare for it?
So we were in India at that time. For my work, I was running that office in India, and I mean, when I was in 10th grade, I mean, I read an article. Me and my friend read an article together on Mansarovar in Tibet, and how beautiful it is, and it is one of the highest natural water lakes on this earth. So that's the freshwater lake, the highest level lake on this earth. And I was very fascinated by the whole trek and hike that surrounds that lake. So I said, you know what, I want to do that. And when time came in, I said, you know what, let's go ahead and do that. But we did know that it's a 55 kilometers long hike. It goes through the elevation. The highest point you reach is about 19,000 plus feet. It's not very easy, very tough. So we had to go ahead and make sure that altitude sickness is what we need to look at. I mean, how do you minimize the impact of altitude sickness? And the preparation is, as we go, I mean, everybody knows that when you go on these high mountain hikes, you will have oxygen depletion after a certain level, at 14,000, 15,000 feet. It's like really, really thin. So you have to make sure that your heart rate, your ability to breathe, the way you control your breath is always going to do that. We prepared, so we used to use, I mean, in India, it was like kind of, there was a place like a hillock kind of stuff. So we used to run on the hillock on the top, go all the way up to top of the hillock and come back, and then do the run first thing in the morning. And for me, that really improved. I've been a runner for quite some time, so that really helped me a lot.
So you said, so you talked something about controlling your breath. What did you mean by that?
So controlling the breath is your pranayama, and that helps you. So as you go up on the altitude, you if you're not very fit, and I've seen some people that have a lot of trouble breathing at that time. So the moment you train your lungs on the amount of oxygen you take, and the moment you breathe, and that's what running helps you do. And I think it has been a real great blessing for me to have run at a different pace and try to help. And elevation running was one of the things that that really helped me build that endurance. And I did not feel a lot, depleted of energy and all of that. Yeah, it was tough, but it was not like very, very difficult.
Okay, and how many months did you train for the first hike?
About 4 or 5 months.
5 months.
Minimum 5 months.
So for someone who's listening to this, to our chat, to our show, right? And if they are planning they are regular walkers and they aspire to go out and hike one of these, and like, for example, in Colorado, you have the 14ers, right?
14 hours.
And so a lot of people go out and hike those.
Right.
And so what I'm to kind of summarize, you would recommend maybe to 4 to 5 months of training, hill climbs, and some level of running to just increase your aerobic capacity to be able to do this kind of hikes, right?
Absolutely, and that's kind of critical. And one of the things is you need to get used to the altitude. You need to get used to acclimatize to that altitude. So I would do like short ones first, get used to that. And I remember, talking about Mansarovar, and from Nepal, we were in Nepal, so we went there, and from Nepal we went to Tibet. The moment we reached an altitude of about 11,000 feet, 10 and a half or 11, so that was the base point, your head gets heavy if you're just not used to that. And then it will take some time. So the Sherpas will tell you, hey, if you climb this big hillock up here, only then you're going to go up on that big trek or hike. Otherwise, we are not going to go ahead and take you or recommend you to go there. So you just sit at that place. People go do the trek and come back. So it's a big parikrama thing that you do. So for 3 days, all through. So that's one of the things that you need to go ahead and look at in terms of acclimatization to altitudes.
So literally your head is heavy either because of ego or because of lack of oxygen.
Lack of oxygen. Ego will not play a role there. It's a funny statement, but you will forget that ego once you get that head.
Well, at least you have a figurative idea of, oh, this is my ego and this is the mountain I'm dealing with. Yeah.
It is.
So what surprised you? What surprised you about the Manasa Sarovar trail?
So I like the serenity. So one of the things that I will never forget of that Tibet hike was the passion that people have there towards hiking and altitude. And I remember, so when we got there, I had food poisoning and I was like very sick. I was literally very, very sick. I was not able to eat anything. Within a span of like about 2 to 3 days, I lost like about 10 to 15 pounds. And at that time, my wife was like, you are not going to go ahead and go on that trek. You are not going to go. I said, no, I really want to go. And I made him a dream to myself. I had a childhood dream. I really need to go. And she was like, no, I won't allow you to go because there is every possibility that you'll get there. And then I talked to the Sherpa guy. And he was very supportive, the head Sherpa who was there. So none of the team members, they said they are going to take horses and all of that and go on that trek. But I said, you know what, I really want to do it. So finally, for me, there was one guy who dropped out and then he decided to come back in. So I had to give my horse to him. Then I said, no horse, I'm going to go trek. So the Sherpa guy came and told me, Ravi, I'm going to carry this oxygen cylinder. I'll go with you and you will be able to go out and make it. I know you will make it, Ravi. Don't worry about it. Don't listen to all of these people. So there were a lot of these horse guys. They said, no, don't go. And but I was able to go ahead and go past that 19,300, whatever that altitude, stood there, look around. It was kind of raining, which was a good thing, totally drenched basically. And it was really, and by the time you came back, all the Sherpa guys just picked me up and lifted me like this, saying that, man, this is really amazing. We saw the determination in you to go ahead and make this happen. So
that's a key word.
Very memorable experience for me.
No, that's so fascinating, and that's such a key word, determination. And you also touched upon that you had a dream, and there was no way you're going to get stopped to not fulfill on that dream, no matter what. And right?
Yeah.
So that's a great message for people who are listening. Everybody has a dream. Everybody dreams. I'm sure a lot of people we meet are listening to those saying, one day I will go to Manasa Sarovar, or one day I will climb the mountains. And well, you got to listen to Ravi Joshi. He made it happen. Determination is the key. Awesome. So you were up there in the mountains. Now you also trekked the rainforests of this planet, which is so fascinating.
Yeah.
And this was in the rainforest was that in Australia?
Yeah, it was in Cairns.
Okay.
So we were planning to go to, so rainforest was not on our agenda, honestly. My biggest thing was the Great Barrier Reef. That was,
Okay.
I wanted to go. I don't know how to swim, but at least I wanted to get onto that Great Barrier Reef and then do snorkeling and all of that. So while I was doing that, I researched around. I said, what else can I do in Cairns? Cairns has got this huge rainforest. Then I said, you know what? Let's go there one day and then hike the rainforest. And it was unbelievably pretty. I mean, the fresh water in there, the fauna, I mean, and the ambience that you get. And one of the things that we did was there was this huge tree. I don't know how many 100 years old that tree was. It was like this wide tree. So I said, guys, why don't we just sit here quietly? Nobody talks. So it was basically I asking myself to shut up, basically. So I was the talker of the group. So I said, so Ravi, you were asking you to shut up yourself? I said, yeah, basically that's what. So we all sat quiet there in that rainforest, and you could hear the little buzz of the insects, the birds, and all of that. It was like a great experience. It was a very decent and very nice hike.
Beautiful. You know, I when you said rainforest, my first thing was probably it was somewhere in South America, and I see that you have done a hike in Peru in South America, which is not the rainforest. So rainforest is in Australia, which, frankly, for me, it's a new learning. I didn't know there was a rainforest in Australia.
Yeah, there was in Cairns, there was a rainforest.
That's terrific. So,
but I mean, we did hike in the Amazon also after our Salcante trek. I wanted to visit Amazon. So near the border of Peru and Bolivia and Brazil, the whole Amazon tributary comes in, and it's like total Amazon jungle. So you go there, stay, and that was one of the most interesting hikes too.
So what difference do you see between, what happens to you from a physical perspective between mountains and equator in the Amazon?
So that's a good question. It's a lot more easier on you, on your body, and you are able to go ahead and move a little bit more faster. And then the distance that you cover in a time period is like much more longer. And Amazon hike was very interesting because of, I used to read in the newspapers and watch on TV that midday you will see darkness, which is so thick. I mean, the rainforest is so thick. And we did really see that. And one of the things that we had was Amazon hike was one of the guys in the front, the guy who leads us, has this big machete. I mean, this big machete he carries, just in case of wild animals, anacondas, or anything that comes in. And there is a guy behind you also, one guy in the middle, you all trekkers go on this hike. So it's like, and you take a lot of time to observe the nature and all of that. So it's not physically daunting on you, but it really makes it more pleasant with the natural beauty that you can absorb.
Anything that took you by surprise in the Amazon hike in South America?
Anaconda.
Really? Tell us about that.
Yeah. So we were in the swamp. We were going in a swamp, like a small swamp, 4 of us. And I used to go ahead and often say, I want to see an anaconda. I want to see an anaconda. My wife, are you crazy? I mean, she can't stand snakes. So I'm like, of all the things that you want to go see, I want to see a jaguar. I want to see an anaconda. But yeah, so we did see one big anaconda come out. And the guy who was borrowing, and he said that it's a baby one, but it was this big. And I could get only a picture of this big, like this snake thing. And he said, yeah, that was the one. And he ran behind it to see if that baby can come out or something like that. But it was.
And this you accessed this trek from Brazil, did you say?
No, we went through. So it's the border of Brazil. So we went border of Brazil and northern Peru. So after Salkantay, after Machu Picchu, we flew into the northern port. That airport is like one runway and then one small control tower. That's pretty much it. These are small planes that come in. People who want to go and spend time in Amazon jungle.
Just like what we see in the movies.
Yeah, and they give you electricity for only 2 hours per day to charge your cameras.
Wow.
So these are all wooden cottages that you stay in. And the interesting part is they give like between 7 and 9 is where you get your electricity. Otherwise, you don't get. So phone charging, camera charging, every time you have to do that. As soon as you get up in the morning, then you go on hikes to different islands and different places. So we come back late in the evening. So it's pretty exciting.
All right.
But I wish I can go to Brazil someday. I don't know.
Sure. No, you're constantly traveling, so I won't be surprised. Your next big hike is going to be sometime in Brazil, somewhere in Brazil. Yeah. And great. So you did South America. You finished Australia, and Africa. Also, you have a very fascinating hike. Tell us about that.
Africa was that was again my dream hike. I mean, going to Mount Kilimanjaro, Tanzania, and so it's like unbelievably pretty. That's a very interesting story. I had been looking for a group. I didn't want to go by myself as a lone traveler because I was kind of little scared about going alone on a trip. But having a group would always be helpful. So in our house, they had some event or session that was going on, training session. So one of the participants, I was telling, I'm looking for people to go on Kilimanjaro hike. I'm not able to go ahead and find one. And in fact, I went to the Woodlands Hiking Club. I was a part of this group, Woodlands Hiking Club. I asked them, they said, no, Ravi, we just do the local hikes. And in Texas, these are like, you won't want to do with us. Those are like small hikes, like the max one we go to is Colorado. And I said, no. So I've never done Kilimanjaro. So I asked one of our friends, and then she said, my husband would be interested. And Anil Adoni, and he came in and he said, okay, well, I'm interested. So we all suddenly decided we'll form a group and then do Kilimanjaro. That's pretty much it. So I was like unbelievably excited that we were going. We all prepared, and as a group together. It was a lot of fun. The group was like very lively, energetic, and we all stuck together as a group. And it was very fun. It was very, very nice.
How challenging was it? That was a 62-kilometer trek you did.
Yeah, that was 62 kilometers, but the altitude is a challenge. So the highest point that you go is 19,500. So it's at a pretty decent elevation. The good part about Kilimanjaro hike, Santosh, is they take you stepwise. They take you to a certain level, like about 3,000 or something, and then go 7, 8, 12, and then at 14 you camp in the night, and then 14 to 19 you go up on the top. So you get acclimatized to this whole altitude, and as you go, that as you go higher, there is no vegetation at all. Purely, it is just rocks and rocks and rocks.
You make it sound very simple. It's like you just woke up one day and said, okay, let me go climb Kilimanjaro. It's 19,000 feet. I'm sure everybody who's listening to this is wondering, okay, right? Absolutely. So now let's, coming to the king of all continents. And, I had last week another friend of mine who was on the show, and he ran marathon in all the 7 continents. Now, when I spoke to you and you said, yeah, I've hiked in 7 continents. I'm like, do people travel to Antarctica so much these days? It's like, okay, that's interesting. So it's good to know. So you hiked in Antarctica, which is the...
Yeah, so on this Antarctica trip was like, so when we did 6 continents, I was like, yep, we need to do Antarctica, period. Yeah. And so I've been chasing because the challenge for Antarctica is, one is if there is a flight that goes, but there is also a route on Drake's Passage, which is one of the worst things for these small expedition things that go. But I really wanted to. So we booked a ticket, and we were about to go. My wife backed out. She said, I'm not going, because she was very scared. Then somehow there was a lady who convinced her. I made her call. I found out about her, and she said she called my wife and personally told her, don't just sit on your couch. Be motivated. Take your husband and go to Antarctica. And then it was like so much fun. So we went there, and so there is, as a part of this whole expedition on the island, when you land, there is a hiking trip that they conduct. There is a kayaking trip that they do. And so one of the things that we did was, so there is a mountain on the up on that particular island. You go all the way to the top, and then you come back. So it was an unbelievably great experience. Like, to go. It was not a very long hike or so, but in that temperature with 4 or 5 layers on.
So did you go through South America, or did you go through the Drake's Passage? What did you do?
Drake's Passage.
Oh, so you did the Drake's Passage.
South America. There is the tip of Argentina called a town called Ushuaia, and from there this expedition thing goes. They go there, and they take you. It's like a 10-12 day trip or 14-day trip, of which 3 days is in traveling, and the rest of the ones they take you different places on the continent. There are like pretty good.
So, talk to us about that. Huh? So, Sripati, who was on the show last week, he didn't take the Drake's Passage because I think he didn't get. He went on he took a flight.
He took a flight from Puertas, Chile, Arenas or some place, I think. So that's the flight thing. But if you go, so we took that expedition ship, and then we went from there, Ushuaia, and it's a really, believe me. I mean, if I tell you that it was like, I don't know how heaven is because I'm still alive. So people describe that as like very pristine and very natural, and it is exactly like that, about the snow all over. And when we were doing the hike, the funny part is, some places it is very solid ice that you step on and then go. Some place it is very shallow. The snow is not very thick and the ice is not very. So you place your foot on that. And then the moment you put all the way up to knee, it goes inside. Wow. And you are stuck there. So you have to sit, get your leg out, and then make sure that you don't put in. So it's like, it was very, very interesting, the way you walk and hike those places.
So 14 days on the ship, or the total travel. Yeah. So what kind of ship was it? Is it like a typical the cruise ships that you're used to, or?
No, these are like very small ships. According to the Antarctica, whatever, all the nations together, they cannot take bigger ships, and it won't go there too. So these are like about 200 people. That's pretty much it. And then they take. So it's like these are all. They have the icebreakers also.
Okay.
So they take you on that icebreaker thing, and you can go on the top. And it was very, very, very. I mean, what do we call? Exciting experience to be there, to go to observe penguins and all of that stuff.
And you said you also jumped into the ocean.
Yeah, that was one of the craziest things that I did in my life. And I mean, that's what happens, right? And when you're like me, so I like to do everything. I don't know how to swim. And then in the midst of all of that ice, you have to take a plunge into the ocean. No life jacket, only a rope tied to your waist. And then you have to sign a declaration too, by the way, with the ship doctors who will be standing on the deck. So you jump in there, go all the way down into that ocean, and then swim a little bit, and then try to come up, climb that deck. And then there will be like 2 doctors who will take care of you, measure your temperature and make sure. And there will be 3 or 4 people wrapping you around with all towels because of hypothermia.
Yeah.
It's
So,
like,
how long were you there in the water? How many seconds or minutes?
not a lot of time. So just for a little bit, go a little bit, move around, make sure your arms are moving, and then of all the people, my wife was standing on the video and said, pull him out, pull him out. This guy doesn't know how to swim. She was about to call me all kinds of bad words, but I think on the camera she wouldn't do that. But it was crazy that.
I think I probably thought that you would probably come back and say, "Who's that guy who pushed me?"
No, you were like, yeah, you have to go. I mean, you are just on your shorts and then jump into that. So it is.
That's terrific. That's brave of you, and I think that's adventure spirit, right? You maybe want to start learning swimming, so you
know
can
what?
do.
I tried actually. Like, I mean, Ram was the one who gave me some good contacts, and I talked to him. The reason why I want to learn swimming was to do the Ironman whenever I get a chance. So that's one of the things, right, that you need to do. You need to learn how to swim someday.
Great. So what's next? What's your next ultra mega trek you're planning?
So that's a good question. So I have created a map for myself, which is called the Foothills of Himalayas. I start all the way from, I spent a lot of time trying to map the route all the way from Sikkim in the northeast and go up to Leh Ladakh. So it goes all the way bordering Nepal and China and all of that. And that's one of the most beautiful hikes that anybody can do through the Himalayas. And the good part is touch the higher altitude ones. So you got a good vegetation. So that's one of the things that I liked about Andes Salkantay trek. Mm-hmm. It's according to National Geographic, it is the top 25 on this earth, Salkantay.
Okay.
So it's a very good one. So that's what I want to do someday when I get an opportunity.
And how long is that? How long is that route? The one that you're talking about in Himalayas?
That's like you have to do it in bits and pieces. So I put in a big stretch and wanted to calculate on how long can I go by transportation, by some place here and there. So it came to like about 2,700 kilometers or so.
Wow.
And then
so it's like a lifetime project.
So yeah, it's like go from one place to another, hike, and then go from place to another. So there are like some very beautiful hikes in Sikkim that one can take up and do. So that's the Foothills of Himalayas is one of my dream projects. Someday I hope I'll get to go there.
Good. So hey, that was a very very fascinating conversation. Learned a lot about your journey in different continents. It's very different from running, because I think one thing I personally find is hiking is so a different mindset from running. There are a lot of people who do ultra running in different continents and different environments, but hiking is a very different mindset where you're also soaking in the environment a lot more. Yeah. Which is a different mindset. It's a very different mindset. And if you've probably hiked 75 kilometers in Peru, you're probably soaked in every bit of it. If you have run 75 kilometers, you probably, everything just busts past you after some time, right?
Right.
So
that's very true. I mean, so I mean, to give you a perspective of what you just said, you absorbed, right? In Peru, after day one, we were camping in a tent, and it was on the hills, in the mountains, and all of that. The beauty was, we just he said that, do you want to keep the tent open on the top so that you can see the stars? And the stars were so crystal clear. And you can just take the water that is flowing out from there and then drink. I mean, it was so like pristine and crystal clear water coming from the mountains, from the glaciers. And so it's very seldom you can just sit quiet and then look at it and then think about a lot of things and absorb, like you just said, right? I mean, absorb nature around you.
Yeah.
It is very, very beautiful. Every little thing, you will find that, oh man, this is so beautiful.
Beautiful.
This is like one of the best ranges if you want to go. The altitudes are not very high. I captured the flowers of Andes. So wherever I used to go hike, I used to sit and take wild pictures of wildflowers and then collated them together called the flowers of Andes. So like all kinds of colors, natural ones you will never be able to go see. It's like very, very pretty. So appreciating nature is one of the things that you will get once you go.
Terrific. Great. So anything you want to say before we wind up? Any message you have? Any takeaways?
I don't think I have anything to go ahead and give as a message, but share my experience. And I would say one thing is, you really want to enjoy nature, go on hiking trips. When you come back, I mean, you don't have to do mountain hiking also. When you come back, you will really be a different person, get a different perspective, will clear your mind. And I enjoyed, I mean, believe me, I mean, when I went on this hiking trip with you all, that was one of the great experience that I had. It was so much fun, even though these were like about 2 hours or so, 2 or 3 hour hikes. It was like so much fun that we had as a group. It was like everybody was so excited, happy, the different age groups. I would love to do more of that with our group. And I really thank you for giving me this opportunity to talk to you and share my experience. And what you're doing for the community and motivating so many people is really amazing. And I can't thank you enough for that. You're bringing out the best in people, which is a very noble thing to do. So hats off to you.
Thank you. Thank you. Hey, so with that, I want to kind of wind up the show for today. I learned a lot personally. I was there with you in all those hikes. And for those people who are listening, hopefully they took a few tips on how to plan, where to go, and just get inspired, because there's enough resources available online to do things. But more than anything else, I hope it inspired people who are sitting on the fence, because these are beautiful experiences that no money can buy, you know, or rather money can buy, I
guess. Money can buy us to get there, Santosh, but that one is like priceless. The moment you get there, the destination, it's all going to be priceless. So.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Adios.
Bye.
Good weekend. Bye.
You too.